You hear a lot of reference to what you might call Catholic guilt, Catholic shame, that Catholics labor in their lives under this kind of burden of guilt and shame and not being good enough, that kind of thing. Well, I want to say a word to that. What is that, and how do Catholics deal with shame, with guilt? First of all, what is shame? One simple way to look at it is shame is a sense in me that there's something that's not right. Simple analogy for that, the check engine light in your car. You're driving along in your car, and on the dashboard pops up a little orange light that says, check engine. So there's something not right in there. In our human experience, there's something not right with us. Shame can be like a little check engine light. There's something that's not right. Two different experiences of this can be, I've done something wrong. We call that guilt. You know, I should have been loving, I should have been helpful, and I wasn't. I was selfish or whatever. That check engine light means I need forgiveness. I need some kind of reconciliation with a friend, with a family member, maybe with God. Another kind of shame check engine light is where I've been hurt by someone else. What's wrong there is not that I've done something wrong, but then I've been treated badly. My dignity, my worth has not been upheld and lifted. It's been violated. Think of maybe a child who's been neglected by their parents and carry this sense that there's something not right with them. They might even feel like it's their fault, but it's not. Think of, or maybe a family member who's committed a terrible crime in the family history. Now there's a skeleton in the closet. And the family feels a kind of family shame, right? There's that check engine light. Something's not right. There's two extremes of how to handle this, which I find in my life personally and as a priest, which are just not helpful. Here are the two extremes. The first one is ignoring. I ignore the check engine light. I don't know how serious the problem is. I'm just going to keep on driving. Well, just like with a car, so it is with our hearts and our minds and our lives. That can be a bad idea because something can go drastically wrong and the car can break down. Think of maybe someone who has an addiction in their life. They're alcoholic, they're addicted to drinking alcohol, and they just say, there's nothing wrong with me. I can stop at any time I want, right? It's just ignoring it. I'm just going to keep on going at great risk to myself. The other kind of extreme, which I find is not helpful at all, is kind of wallowing in it, focusing on it without doing anything helpful about it. Again, with the check engine light, this would be maybe pulling over to the side of the road and just staring in horror at the light on the dashboard. Now, what I want to say is that this is not something that's unique to Catholics. It is a human experience. We all have a sense, if you're alive, you have a sense in your heart, as I do too, I'm not exactly the way I should be. I've done things badly, I've done things wrong, maybe knowing I did it wrong, maybe not knowing I did it wrong. Things have been done that are bad and wrong to me. And so I have a check engine light in my heart going on all the time. What the church provides is precisely what Jesus himself provides. We see it in the gospel in so many ways, in the gospels, the four gospels in the Bible. It's this third way of dealing with the human experience of shame. One way to describe this is relating our shame to merciful love. And a great example of this is in the Gospel of John. It's in chapter 8. It's an experience of shame. There's a woman who's caught in the very act of adultery. Imagine that. Imagine the shameful feelings that would bring up for her. And now this woman is brought before Jesus by the religious authorities. No longer can she ignore this. And what they want to do is have her wallow in this shame, to judge her, to condemn her, to isolate her in this experience. What Jesus does is fascinating. What he does is bends down in the dirt and starts writing. Eventually he stands up and he says, "Whoever is without sin casts the first stone." Of course, starting from the oldest to the youngest, they all start walking away. Jesus has uncovered the brought into the light her shame, but instead of rubbing her nose in it, what he's doing is helping her relate that shame to him. The word mercy in Latin is misericordia. The word misericordia, heart. Mercy, merciful love, is what is the encounter of God with our shame. It's where we acknowledge that there's something wrong in me, and then I relate it to the one who can do something about it, who can heal it. I'm seeing the check engine light come on in my car, and I'm bringing it to the mechanic who can fix it. In the Catholic life, this is so profoundly experienced, I think, in the sacrament of confession or reconciliation. A person will have a sense there's something wrong in my life. Maybe they've done something wrong. Maybe they're just carrying a vague sense there's something wrong, or I feel shameful, I feel guilty. They bring it to the priest in the sacrament of reconciliation. And what the priest will do, like a good mechanic, or maybe a happier analogy is like a good doctor, he'll listen to them, and if it's something that they've done wrong, he'll provide the medicine of forgiveness. If it's something that's been done to them, he'll help them to acknowledge that and maybe to help them forgive and to experience healing. It's a pain for me as a priest when I experience people who say, oh, I grew up Catholic and the church was always, making me feel this guilt and this shame. Well, maybe they did experience that, but that's not the church at her best, because what the church does is not help us ignore shame or wallow in it. The church doesn't wag her finger at us, because that's not what Jesus does. What Jesus does is provides this third way, this new way, this healing way of dealing with shame, which is a two-step process. I acknowledge it, I acknowledge this check engine light in my heart, and then I relate it to the one who can fix it and who can take away all my shame.